Welcome back to Better Odds Sports Betting, everybody. We're joined by a tremendous guest here, Doug Upstone, today. Also joined by Kiev O'Neill, as I am every week. First of all, Kiev, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's Friday. Lots of stuff going on. A lot of college football tonight. College basketball is rolling. I mean, all kinds of stuff flying us in different directions, but we love it, and that's why we're here.
Absolutely, Doug. This is a busy time of the year. I know you've been staying really busy this time of the year. We're happy. We appreciate you taking some time out to be on the show with us here today. Doug is a friend and a great handicapper, and certainly pleased to have him on here today. Doug, can you well, first, how you doing? And then can you just give our viewers and listeners a background of yourself a little bit briefly?
Absolutely, Kyle. Hi, Kev. How you doing? I've been in the handicapping business specifically for almost 20 years. Had my own websites and did a variety of things. And about 2 years ago, got a interest from Doc Sports, and that's where I have been since. So it's going on 2.5 years, and it has gone extremely well to be there. And so, yeah, things are really rolling. Doing a lot more of videos like this, doing more podcasts, and as you know, Kyle, we've talked many times in the past, and there is no shortage of things that I'm not willing to try and do to my detriment in terms of time and everything else. But despite this, I watch a ton of games, specifically more so in college, in the NFL and college basketball. And I listen to, for sure, a lot of baseball games. And I find the NBA in particular to be, you don't have to watch as much. You follow the numbers from a betting standpoint. So I think those are kind of the key things. And so, yeah, I'm an enthusiastic guy, like to bring it. And hey, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you on, Doug. Doug has a great work ethic. Kiev does as well. All three of us, I think, probably considered workaholics. That can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, but for this industry, you kind of have to be in some ways, right? If you don't want to work hard and put in the time here, you're not going to be very successful. So happy to have you on, Doug. And let's get into the games, guys. Let's go into college football first. Let's start with Nebraska and Wisconsin. Wisconsin, Kiev's team, so I'm going to let him start out on this one. But it looks like the current lines on this one, Wisconsin favored by about 9 points across the board, total of 43 or 43 and a half. Kiev, what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, I'll tell you, Kyle, being a Wisconsin fan, it's bittersweet right now because now this is the team that we were expecting in the beginning of the year. And now they have those three losses that puts us in a horrible situation. I guess we can play the upsetter of Ohio State possibly, or whoever, Michigan, but it's in a way, just being a fan, it's like I knew this team would be here. It's just like, why didn't they be here right away? It's like where they're playing tiddlywinks all summer or something. I have no idea, but this defense is certainly back in full effect here. Jim Leonard is doing an amazing job with the Badgers, and they are ranked number one pretty much across the board in every single stat line on defense. I mean, success rate, line yards, pressure rate, you name it. In my opinion, Georgia still edges them out on defense just based upon their, recruits and their players. But I do have Wisconsin number two for defense. Now, the thing about Nebraska is that their defense hasn't been bad. They're like the only team to hold Ohio State to 26 or less points, and they held Oklahoma to number 23 points. So you have to consider that when handicapping this game. Wisconsin is a little injured on running back. I mean, Braylon Allen has kind of showed up out of nowhere and became a running back this year, really, which is pretty cool. Malusi's out, but they have some guys they can throw in there. We do have a big offensive line to obviously give anybody a good shot at running the ball. The question is about turnovers, and I trust Graham Mertz finally a little bit more than I do Adrian Martinez. Scott Frost has been a turnover machine lately, and that's part of the reason why they're always outgaining their opponents and losing games. But another thing is that Nebraska got 7 losses. Their bowl season's done. Are they really upsetting Wisconsin with 3 losses? I mean, now I think they might be a little bit more motivated coming into this if Wisconsin had, no losses or won. So in my opinion, this could be a complete letdown for the kids. I'm going to give you a strong lean to Wisconsin, but I'll tell you this total at 43 and a half. It's rare when I want to lay points especially over a touchdown when you have such a low total of 43.5. But I will say that there's a chance Nebraska doesn't score much at all. Wisconsin, last 4 games, 7.6 points they're allowing per opponent. I have a very strong lean to the under in this one.
Yeah, I'll go next on this one. Kiev, I tend to agree with you that the under is my strong lean in this game as well. And you might not get rich betting college football games under 43, but there are some games that are justified for this low of a total. I think this is one of them. How many points is Nebraska going to put up in a game like this? I don't trust Adrian Martinez at all. I mean, I know he can make impressive plays and he do some things that other people can't, but we've seen him turn it over in key spots way too many times. And at this point, guys, it's pretty obvious that Nebraska is like the king of winning the box score and somehow losing the game. I don't think they'll probably win this box score, the way Wisconsin's been playing. Now, can Nebraska keep it close? I have the same leans in this game as Kiev. I would lean toward laying the points here with Wisconsin. It sounds strange to say, Kiev, that you trust Graham Mertz more than somebody else, but he has played better here of late. And
he's been in better situations too, because he's not playing Notre Dame, Michigan, or Penn State. So
sure, yeah. I mean, and I know some people would say, well, Wisconsin's defense looks tremendous because they've played such weak teams in the last 5 or 6 weeks. It's still really impressive how little the opposition has done against them. I agree that they're the second best defense in the country. They have a tremendous defensive coordinator. And, I don't trust Scott Frost's team to be highly competitive in this game, like Kiev said, because you just have to trust them to want to play the spoiler role. And, they expected to be better than this throughout the course of the season. I think my favorite play here would be the under, though. Doug, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys pretty much said everything that I thought of. The one thing that comes into play here, and I think you guys do power ratings. I certainly do. And one thing that you find about Nebraska, despite a 3-7 record, I think almost everybody has them at least in their top 40. Okay, so, and it's pretty rare to have a top 40 team that, by power ratings, that would have a 3-7 record. So that tells you that that they're a good team. They, as you mentioned, they play good defense. They have gotten up for the better teams, but for the most part, the better teams they faced at home, not on the road. So that's the other key, I think, to this one. Wisconsin, man, they are rolling right now. I mean, just the only thing, the offense, and this is kind of why you guys are talking about the total. I think that's why the total is so low, because in spite of how well they're rolling on offense, they're not scoring a lot of points. Okay. Their drives tend to be very time consuming. They don't have much in terms of big plays. And, the other thing Kiev might disagree with me on this, but last year there was a lot of talk about the the receivers losing all the receivers, and Mertz had literally nobody to throw to at the end of the year. I think they had a collection of tight ends, as I recall. But as it turns out, these guys haven't turned out to be that good. And so I think that's what's held this offense up, along with Mertz. Didn't have a lot of confidence in himself, was forcing balls like it was practice. I mean, at times, especially the first part of the season. Actually, I have this as one of my plays, at Docs this week. But I will tell you that one thing that I would recommend, and you can pair it with whoever you like, is to put Wisconsin into a teaser, on this one. With it at 9, get you down to -3 with Wisconsin. Find somebody else you like. You go through some key numbers. I think that's a good way to go about this.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to usually not want to bet totals or teasers in college football, but with the total set this low, it makes a little more sense than in a game. There's a lot of these college games that have totals in the 60s, and then you're thinking, why would I want to tease this game? But this game has an NFL total, a low NFL total, honestly. So I could see that making some sense. Maybe even paying the juice to get a 6.5 point teaser or something like that to get it to 2.5. You could even tease this game and include an NFL game with it, certainly, of course. So I think we might even talk about a couple games that I would kind of like teasers. And also, Kiev, do you have any thought on a teaser on this one?
I hate teasing college football, but I mean, anything with a low total is a lot safer than anything else. And I do agree with Doug about the receivers. That was my biggest thing coming into the season. I said these receivers are bad. They don't run routes. But at the same time, Paul Chris didn't have them prepared that well. They were running the ball all summer, it looked like. now they're finally starting to figure it out and show what Graham Mertz is. You wonder if you have such a high profile quarterback like Graham Mertz, why we didn't get any transfers in at Wisconsin. It's like you have Mahomes tweeting about Graham Mertz like a year ago or whatever it was, and it's like where was that? I'm like, what are they that conceited that they don't think they need help? And then it just kind of showed you it's like Graham Mertz didn't even know where to throw the ball. Now they're much more buttoned up, and they're looking good, and they have some good plays. I personally would lean. I'd rather lay the -9 than tease it. Personally, that's just my opinion. But I wouldn't know what to tease them with, and it's dangerous because you have Adrian Martinez throws 2 pick sixes. It's going over, and it could go over your teaser if you're thinking about the total too. So.
Yeah, guys, so let's appreciate Rob jumping into the comments there, wanting us to look at Navy, East Carolina, and Colorado State and Hawaii. We'll touch on that one here in a minute. Let's go through the other games that we had intended to talk about here real quick, and then we'll get to that one, Rob. Michigan State and Ohio State. I'm going to start on this one. I think it's no big surprise to people who know me very well that I'm a massive Buckeyes fan. Guys, I don't love betting Ohio State games. I think both of you guys know this. I like to just root for Ohio State and not have any kind of betting interest. There's just been a couple times that I bet against Ohio State, the other team getting points. And I have to say that was just not a fun experience. And I believe both times the Buckeyes covered and beat me. And then I just feel torn about it. I hate that type of situation. Sometimes I do play totals on Buckeyes games. I think when it's clicking for this Ohio State offense, this Buckeyes offense is just tremendous. And I think it'd be hard to think of an offense that's better than Ohio State in the country. The wide receivers are so good. Smith and Jigba is considered their 3rd best receiver. For just about anybody else in the country, he'd be the best receiver on the team. I think he'll be a really good NFL player. Travion Henderson is a tremendous running back. He hasn't gotten a ton of carries. I know they're trying to be careful with him, but Henderson is very, very good running back. They have a good offensive line. Stroud's come into his own. Actually, Buckeyes fans were pretty tough on Stroud at the beginning of the season. I remember some of my friends like, we got to get a quarterback. This guy sucks, and here it is. He's the 2nd favorite in the Heisman.
Oh my God, you lose to Oregon and all the fans turn on.
Yeah, Buckeyes fans are tough, man. They don't handle mediocrity even inside a game very well, that's for sure. But I will say I think it's kind of a weaker Heisman race this year than some years, right? Usually we have a couple guys that's like, it's obvious they need to be Heisman favorites, and this year there's not quite as many of those. But my question is, how's Michigan State going to get stops in this game? I don't imagine Michigan State gets very many stops in this game. They're 100th in passing play success rate allowed. That is not good against an Ohio State team that has really been very pass heavy of late. I would expect they'll do the same here. There's no bad weather in the forecast for this game, so it'll be chilly, but that's it. It is November in Columbus, Ohio, so that's expected. Ohio State's 2nd in the nation in passing play success rate, and they're 3rd in the country in yards per carry, so they can do it either way. Guys, I am still concerned about the Buckeyes defense, though. I don't think the Ohio State defense is good enough for them to go win a title. As a fan, I hope I'm wrong, certainly. This is a pass defense. Even last week against Purdue was moving the ball a lot against them. They were doing a lot through the air. Really hated that I didn't play the over in that game. I kind of stayed away from that one because it's about 15 miles per hour winds here. That usually keeps me off a high over like that. And of course they get to it by halftime, just a really high scoring game. My strong lean in this game is the over once again. I think Michigan State will score points. Kenneth Walker, really explosive running back. Thorne has been better than I thought he would be for Michigan State. Not the amazing quarterback that's just going to air it out on you constantly, but a good quarterback. And I think Ohio State secondary, which ranks 70th at PFF and coverage grade, just not very good. I don't think they're very good to where Michigan State should get some big plays, especially if they're down fairly big late, which I think Ohio State will have the lead here throughout. Michigan State plays quick to try to keep scoring at the end. Tempo-wise, both of these teams are quick. This is a high total, but my strong lean on this game is the over. Doug, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, well, you mentioned Michigan State's defense, and the types of stats that you're looking at are a little more sophisticated. I'm looking at more of the meat and potatoes, and they're last in the country in passing yards allowed. Okay, and they're going up against the number 6 offense in passing yards. So right off the bat, how do they get any stops? Now, Michigan State, the only way to me they stay in this game is that it have to go with the physical running game. Now, you mentioned about the Ohio State pass defense, and I think part of the problem, I'm not saying this is the entire element, but the run defense has improved dramatically. Now, some of it has to do with the competition, because the first two games they gave up over 200 yards to both Minnesota and Oregon. Since then, they've given up 75 yards per game rushing. Okay. Now, again, part of it's the competition. Michigan State's going to bring some heavy physical load to this game to run the ball. So we'll find out. And for you as a fan, you'll find out what their prospects are the next 2 weeks to do something. Go if they make it to the Final Four and do all that. So we'll see. But I think Michigan State, I think they will run the ball. I'm not saying they're going to have tremendous success, but Walker's are obviously a really good running back, and it'll be really physical in the trenches. But the Michigan State defense, I just can't get past that. And then the other element you mentioned about the total, and I think for me at least, this is the key to the game. The total I'm seeing, the last I saw anyways, was I think it was 67 or 68, somewhere's in there. So if you take that and you incorporate the 19 points, that makes the final score basically 43-24 Ohio State. Well, this season, the only 3 games that Ohio State has not covered is when they scored less than 40 points. So I'm just going to follow the odds makers, follow the logic, and say Ohio State's the play, scoring over 40, and they win and cover against Michigan State.
I think that's fair. I think that it's likely they'll get into the mid-40s in this game. Even a Buckeyes team total over would make some sense in a game like this. Kiev, what are your thoughts on this one?
Isn't the week to fade Ohio State next week, Kyle?
I'm not fading Ohio State next week. You already know that.
You start going to the bank, start getting some money out and stuff like that. Actually, if you've done that, you've lost a lot of money because they've been killing the team up north, as Kyle likes to say. Everything you said, Kyle, is the thing. Michigan State is 57th in pressure rate. That's not going to do it. The only way you're going to get to CJ Stroud is to pressure him and stop them, because give them time for those crossing routes. It's over. There's points. But I do think the only reason that Ohio State does give up 330 passing yards per game is because they're blowing everybody out, and they're probably just sitting in kind of cover 2 prevent. And, people are just getting chunks of yards against them. And you might see a couple of flags, officials letting the other team get a little bit in the game, but this is an overplay for sure. I mean, I don't see how it goes under, put it that way. If you think you're playing the under, that's the side I'm definitely against. So not sure if this will be backdoored or anything. There's no way Ohio State's looking ahead to next week. I'm going to lean the Buckeyes here minus 19, even though my power ratings say minus 18. So that doesn't matter to me. This team can get margin if it wants. So that's wrong.
Yeah. And at this point in the season, I mean, everybody that's up in the top 4 or around the top 4, they have to try to score as much as they can. They can't let off. I can't imagine Ryan Day being like, let's just be happy to not score here the last couple of drives. It wouldn't be a good decision. And, I don't think anybody near the top 4 will be doing that anytime soon. Let's get into a different game here. This one way more under the radar, guys, but this is a fun game. I'm interested here for UAB and UTSA. The spread on this game pretty much across the board. UTSA -5. Doug, I'll let you start us off here with UAB and UTSA. Do you have any strong opinion on this game?
Yeah, this UAB program, I so admire their coach, Bill Clark, because when they shuttered the program, anybody would have left. Okay. The only person that wouldn't leave, evidently, was Bill Clark. And he had every reason in the world to do it, but yet he went out, he brought the football program back, and look what he's done. Okay. I mean, it's Conference USA. We get it. Okay. But still, I mean, this is a viable team. Once again, even like last week, I had them as a free play last week. I had UAB to upset Marshall. And they went on the road and they got it done. So I think this is a very good team. I don't think it's as good, though, as some of the teams he's had previously. Okay. Now, so, I mean, 7-3 record, strong, yes. But UTSA, I mean, I remember last year, when there was nothing on, and the only college football games that we could watch was Sun Belt games, or I'm sorry, either was Sun Belt and Conference USA, and that was it. And so UTSA was on, I think, once or twice to start the season, And so it was like an introduction, and you couldn't help but from watching them think, wow, this is a pretty interesting brand of football this team plays. And they had some talent and didn't win a ton of games last year, but it set the foundation for this year. And they're one of the things that and it's overrated, of course, but they're 20th in total defense and they're 15th in fewest points allowed. Now, granted, they're playing in Conference USA. We accept that. However, that's still far and away the best, in that conference. When I look at this game, I really want to take UAB, but I just think I would want them at 7. Okay, because the Roadrunners offense, I think, is just a little bit too strong. It's certainly better than what UAB has, and so with that in mind, I'm going to say to take the Roadrunners of UTSA to get the job done at a number I think that's very manageable for them to cover.
Kiev?
It's good analysis. Yes, the thing for me is, remember, Kyle, before the season started, I said I'd like UTSA, but so does everybody else. And they were like 3-1 to win conference because I thought I was going to get some massive number on them. And I was like, well, Jesus, this is the one team that the market had right. They really did. Now, what I will say is Conference USA is, probably the worst conference, I would have to think, with some of those really bad bottom dwellers there. But UAB has owned this conference. Are they going to let UTSA off easily here? If you're thinking from a creative standpoint, I can't think that they would. I have a couple conflicts in my head going on in this game, and I do have a short list of betting UAB, but I'm not loving the number because my UTSA is -6. I have UTSA -6 is 4.5. I think it's 4.5. I don't know if it's went up. So, but the matchup, UAB can have some success through the air against this team. I believe that UAB has a better net yards per play by 0.34 and a little bit of a harder schedule because they had the Georgia, and UTSA got by a pretty bad Illinois team. I think they were losing that game for a little while. UAB's got the advantage passing the ball 9.3 yards per attempt. UTSA gives up a modest 7.8 yards per attempt. So I could see how UAB covers this completely, whether it be backdoor style or just straight up a very close game. So I'm going to wait. And it's not like I care if I miss this one, but just because I hate going against my power ratings, but maybe it does get to 6.5, and I'll make a play on them. So that's my thoughts here.
Yeah, guys, I think the point that Rob brings up here at the bottom of the screen, you think UAB is going to throw the ball more from the start because probably have trouble running against UTSA is kind of a big key to this game because UAB is usually a run-heavy team.
Yep.
But UTSA cannot stop the pass, and they are great at stopping the run. So is UAB willing to kind of change the way that they play? And this is a team that's running the ball in UAB 65% of the time. They don't want to run the ball 65% of the time in a game like this. A couple things about this game I think are interesting too. Similar strength of schedule from both these teams, but UAB does have a better yards per play margin on the season. UAB is +2 turnover margin, UTSA +11 turnover margin. So that has a lot to do with UTSA winning games by so much. I really don't want to bet against Bill Clark. And I echo exactly what Doug said there at the beginning. In fact, I think Bill Clark might be my favorite coach in college football, including Ryan Day, which I like Ryan Day a lot as well. But, I can't think of somebody else who would have stayed. Like Doug said, who else would have stayed at UAB through all that? You have to give the guy a ton of credit for that. And immediately he turned the team right back around, even after that break. And they were very good right away. Clark is 40-27 against the spread as a head coach. So he's been very good as a moneymaker there. Last year's game is kind of interesting because it was 21-13 UAB, but UTSA was playing their third and fourth string quarterbacks in that game. So hard to read too much into that one because Harris has played pretty well here for UTSA, and McCormick's a tremendous running back, Sincere McCormick for UTSA. I don't want to bet this game because I kind of wanted to bet UTSA when I first saw the line and based on my power ratings, like Kiev said. but I don't want to bet against Bill Clark. So this is going to be the one that I'll just completely pass on of the ones that we talk about here today. And guys, let's touch on real quick the other games that Rob mentioned there. Navy and East Carolina. We can make this quick because we got several other games to get to. But Navy, East Carolina. East Carolina just won that game last week outright. Kiev, didn't you have East Carolina in that one from the show?
I did. There you are, Kyle.
Yeah.
I actually forgot myself. I got one of those to win outright, and I think it was like a plus 170 or something like that. But I mean, I'm glad you brought this up because I looked at this game and a couple things. It's senior night, I believe, at Navy. They haven't lost a senior night in weeks. I mean, they're a 4-point dog here, but there's also something, the fact that East Carolina, if Cincinnati loses this week, they play Cincinnati next week. They could actually be the one representing the American Athletic Conference in the championship game. Literally, I wonder if that's on their minds. I mean, because they're not out of it yet, and we don't expect Cincinnati to lose to SMU, but crazier things have happened. So that's the caveat. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, Doug, do you have any quick thoughts on this one?
Yeah, and this was on my list of games, and the team that I had was East Carolina. That's who I liked. I absolutely love how they're playing. Their offense is really solid. Defensively, they've made some real improvements once they got into conference play. So that was a big push for them. The concern I have, and the reason that I backed out of it, Navy is still not very good, but they're not nearly as bad as they were last year, or even how they started the season. And the one thing that Navy can do, they can play keep away. And so with that being the case, and then if a team, we've seen it before many times, teams get nervous when they don't have the ball, if they're used to scoring and trying to go up and down the field. And if they're not getting on the field, for 7-8 minutes at a time, and the number of possessions really gets limited, they get jumpy. So I would have a slight lean with East Carolina, but if Navy covered, it would be no surprise to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean Navy. So there you go. I mean, I think they do cover this. I don't know if they win it, but I have to lean just the way that, like Doug said, that they control the possessions and they'll slow this game down. This game is going to mean a lot to Navy, and East Carolina isn't a letdown spot, even though they're not mathematically out.
I'm gonna lean to Navy here slightly as well, based on the fact that, I mean, Navy beat them last year when Navy was that bad. Navy beat them 2 years ago badly. They've been able to run the football in East Carolina, and the thing about this that is kind of important to me is East Carolina is a really good pass defense. They've been very good against the pass, but that makes no difference in this game. Navy's not going to pass anyway, so we know they're just going to run every single play. So can they stop the run? I know Houston, East Carolina's head coach, has seen the triple option a lot, but they haven't been able to stop it the last couple of years. I would lean Navy in this game. And the other one that he brought up, Colorado State and Hawaii, I don't have any lean on this game whatsoever. I will say Colorado State's a team that is just kind of confounds me. I mean, they're not well coached. I don't like Adazio. His questionable, to say the very least, decision making late in some of these games has really hurt his team badly. And Hawaii, as far as Hawaii, I don't like betting Hawaii games. I feel like really strange things happen in Hawaii games, both in college football and college basketball. But I don't even have a lean here, guys. Do either of you have anything on Colorado State and Hawaii?
Go ahead, Kev.
Both teams at 7 losses, both out of bowl contention. Does that hurt Colorado State going to Hawaii more? Maybe the kids want to go out a little bit. I don't know. I would say that I would think that and maybe lean to Hawaii.
Yeah, I just see you mentioned Colorado State with a bad coach, and Hawaii's situation isn't any better. If you're how you win in Hawaii, you have to be able to throw the ball. If running the ball is part of the offense, but the main thing is you have to throw the ball. That's always how it's been, and whenever they've had success, that's how it's been. Then the run game comes off the pass. Right now, they're doing absolutely nothing of any consequence. They have their offense is mediocre, their defense isn't special. I would recommend a pass on this game myself.
Yeah, so would I. So I think we're in agreement here that this game's a good pass. Guys, let's switch over to the NFL side. I know, both of you guys are great NFL handicappers, and I love getting your guys' insight on these games. And we're going to talk about what I think is the best game of the weekend first here, the Cowboys and the Chiefs. The line here on this one, I believe 2.5, right, for Kansas City. I'll pull this up as we're looking, as we're talking, 2.5 and 56.5. Wow, this total is just jumping and jumping. I can't blame anybody for wanting to bet an over between these two teams. 56.5 is a high number, certainly. Doug, can you start us off here on this one?
Yeah, you look at Dallas, they're 8-1. Okay. And if honestly, if they win this game, I think you could make a very strong case. They're the best team in the NFC, Tampa Bay aside. The thing that I like what they have done is that they have just been able to run the ball, have a tremendous offense, and their defense. I'm still not sold on their defense as being great, but I still think it's more than good enough, and they make plays. And in the NFL, let's face it, the NFL isn't so much anymore about the number of yards you give up, okay, and stuff like that. Oh, there's some importance to it, but it's not as big of a deal. The thing is to keep the points. Okay. So it's about scoring and giving up points. And that's how the league has evolved. So statistics, I just find mean a little bit less in the NFL compared to what they used to. Now, Kansas City, well, let's put it this way. If I was the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Chargers, I would be very angry with myself right now because they had an opportunity, each of them, to take control of this division when Kansas City was playing awful. That is not the case anymore. Kansas City's not the Kansas City previously, at least at this point, but they've won 3 straight. They're getting much better in their last 3 games, or actually, no, it's since the debacle against Buffalo. That's what it was. They've given up under 100 yards rushing in each contest and only 220 yards passing. So the defense is definitely coming around on this one. As far as the game itself, I think the odds makers did the perfect number at 2.5, because one thing it does, if it goes to 3, that's going to bring in a lot of Dallas money. Okay. Right off the bat. But at 2.5, Chiefs fans kind of go, is this really the right? Why are we only 2.5? We're normally a 3 or maybe even a 3.5 point favorite at home. So why is the number so low? So I think it's just like the perfect number to be at. So myself, I'm going to lean with Kansas City on this one just because the number is in a favorable position against Dallas. But again, if Dallas came in and won the game, actually, that was my initial thought, is that was the case. But, when I started going through everything, I walked it back because the situation seemed to favor Kansas City at this point to me.
Yeah, Doug, I think those are all good points. And Rob, we appreciate your kind comments there on us being must listens for handicappers. Appreciate you tuning in, and we'll touch on Carolina here briefly. I think as far as this one, guys, Kansas City, if correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe they're 0-9 against the spread in their last 9 home games. Kansas City has not been covering numbers in general. Obviously, they've been highly rated, and then in most games they've been favored, and then win by less than that. This year they've been struggling in general. My question is, does Dallas switch their defense for this game? Because we've already kind of seen what Kansas City does and what's been able to slow Mahomes down this year. It's those 2 high safeties, take away the deep. The Raiders were unwilling to do that, right? So the Raiders already knew what's worked against them, but Gus Bradley, I believe it is was unwilling to change the way he goes about it because, that's just the way I play defense. Well, that's fine. Then Kansas City just go ahead and beat you. Dallas does not play the 2 high safety defense usually either. And although Diggs has been very good at intercepting a lot of passes this year, if you look at his coverage grades, really, he's not a great cornerback as far as just straight coverage grades. He takes a lot of big chances. It could be dangerous. I mean, he could certainly pick off Mahomes. It wouldn't surprise me, but it also could be dangerous for him. As far as this one, guys, I think I lean Dallas in a teaser, because you get Dallas up above 3 and 7 in a game that I feel like should be very close. I think this would be a back and forth type game. I would have kind of wanted to bet the over, but 56.5 is too high for me in this one. I think you could make a good argument that Dallas has the best offense in the NFL at this point. Tampa Bay is really badly banged up right now, certainly. So, I don't know. This is a tough one for me. If Dallas was 3, I'd have to take Dallas in this one. At this point, I'm going to stay away from this game. Kiev, do you have anything on this one?
Well, we covered this one very, very substantially this week, but there's just a lot of different angles that can happen. I mean, is Dallas going to kind of sit back and let Kansas City kind of chop them up through their zone and just get chunks of yards? I mean, if that's the case, I can see Dallas run the football too, and this game slowing down and not even hitting the total. You know, the total's high at 51. But at the same time, you know, I mean, Diggs takes chances, and everyone talks about he's such a low grade, but he always gets the interceptions because he's jumping routes, and it all depends upon Dallas's pressure rate. Dallas's average pressure rate. So I don't know. I don't like KC's offensive line much. I don't think the Raiders really did much to get to Mahomes last week. I think that was more about the Raiders' defensive line being bad, in my opinion. I think if you over pursue Mahomes, he just takes off running. Does Dallas know that? At 3, I would definitely take Dallas, but at 3, I would take Kansas City. You know, I would. It's just a numbers game when it comes to this. It's a perfect spread, in my opinion. I have a small lean to Dallas because you're getting 2.5 points, but Kansas City. What do you believe? This is about what you believe. Do you believe Kansas City the last 6-7 weeks, or do you believe Kansas City the last 3 years? They definitely have a coaching advantage for their head coach here. I'm still not buying into McCarthy yet. And I think he's just kind of like victim of circumstance. Dallas is loaded. So a teaser is a fantastic idea, in my opinion. I think teasing it. I know it's a high total, but I can see a very close game.
Yeah, and Kyle, to your point about with the Raiders last week, if I don't know if the Raiders wore black jerseys and they played in Omaha, the Kansas City would beat them by 20 points. Okay. It doesn't make any difference where Kansas City plays the Raiders on the road. They beat their butts every single year. It is known as Raiders Week forever, going back, I think, even to even before Marty Schottenheimer. I mean, they just kick their butts all the time. And so I almost dismiss that, you know, in terms of how that played out, because it wouldn't make any difference. They destroy them continually. But, you know, it's an interesting game for sure. And, you know, and so that's what we're looking for late in the afternoon. I think we're going to be satisfied to see what takes place.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to this game. And I just have to give a quick mention of Desean Jackson where he stops running when he's out in front of everybody and that turns into a turnover. My son's kind of watched that play on repeat, just wanting to laugh at something. It was just pretty funny. You know, it just kind of does seem like the Raiders against the Chiefs, like you said. I know last year the Raiders played better against the Chiefs, but that was kind of a weird season where there's not fans and stuff like that. And then it went back to how the Chiefs just kind of dominate them here this year. You know, this is a fantastic game, Kansas City and Dallas. I'm really looking forward to this one. But let's get into a game that I think is probably not quite as exciting, but still, you know, I mean, we look for betting value, whether it's an exciting game or not. You guys know that. Some of my favorite games are usually the ones that are not on national TV or are talked about as much. Let's talk about the Steelers and the Chargers. Now, I imagine some people, you know, in the NFL wish this would have been a better game based on the time slot it's in. I don't think it's been announced whether Mason Rudolph or Big Ben will be the quarterback here, right?
No, it really hasn't, and that's why we always cover the Sunday night and the Monday night game, so we have to cover it. But I don't have a lot because I need to know more about that. And now Minka Fitzpatrick has COVID, and so was he vaccinated? Does he get the 24-hour deal? I don't know, and I think that Najee. See, here's the thing: my heart wants to bet the Chargers, but my brain kind of doesn't. And the reason that is because if the Steelers are smart, they run Najee all day, you know, and do some stupid bootlegs with Rudolph or whoever. I mean, the Chargers have the worst rush EPA per play and the worst rushing success rate. This could be a completely time-controlled game. The Vikings showed some of that last week against the Chargers. I mean, the Chargers are hot and cold. They go for it on fourth down. They're so erratic. I'm not betting it.
Yeah. Doug, you have anything on this one? This is a tough game, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, for me, to be perfectly honest, I actually really like one aspect of this game, and it's one for me that's rare. Kyle, you're well known for your totals and stuff like that, in a variety of ways, and that's what I like here. You know, it doesn't matter to me who plays quarterback, Rudolph or Roethlisberger. This team this year is averaging 19.7 points per game, 26th in the NFL. At the same time, the Pittsburgh defense has been pretty solid, giving up 20 points per game. As Kiev just mentioned, the Chargers have no run defense, and they pretty much don't have much of a run offense. So if they don't have the ball, Pittsburgh has the ball. How does Justin Herbert score? And as we've seen the last few weeks, despite all the accolades for Justin Herbert, right now he's not Dan Fouts or even Phillip Rivers. Okay, they're averaging 19.2 points per game in their last 4 games. The thing, though, this that has me sold on everything besides what I just said about Pittsburgh potentially controlling the game. Pittsburgh on the road. You guys ready for this? 38-11-1 under in their last 50 on the road. And then when we have the total is sitting at 47, and the drill down from that number is Pittsburgh is 11-2 under away when the total is between 42.5 and 49. Add in the Bolts are 6-0 under when they have rushed two consecutive times for 99 or less yards. I'm going under 47 in this one.
It's a convincing argument, guys. I like Doug's thoughts here.
That's
and as Kiev said too, Kiev. I mean, Pittsburgh would be wise to run the football and try to take a bunch of time off the clock. And if they do that, they probably have some success against the Chargers. But if they score, it's probably not going to be very quick. It's going to take quite a bit of time off the clock. We see moving clock, maybe even some field goals. You guys know that if you want an under, you want the team to have some success. You don't like the quick 3 and outs and a punt. You want some success and then punt it deep or kick a long field goal or something like that. I think there could be some of that in this game. So I'm going to have to look at this one a little bit more. I think that's an interesting argument for sure. So let's talk about the Giants and the Bucks, the Monday night game. So Daniel Jones, Tom Brady. I know the Bucks are really badly banged up. I don't know how many of these guys are going to be back this week. Godwin questionable, I believe. Gronkowski, I think it looks like he may play based on what I've read. That's a pretty key thing to this game. Obviously, the Bucks are favored by 10.5 in this one, guys. And I'm going to start off by saying there's an NFL angle that I've followed pretty closely over the years. Teams with a 2-game ATS average of -11 against the spread or worse in their last 2 games. So -11 against the spread and a 2-game sample size have gone 501 and 392 in that third game. That's the Bucks in this game. So it'd be laying the points with the Bucks. It's 56.1% since 2005. Now I have to tell you, I don't like laying 10.5 points. And I think the Giants defense is at least serviceable. I do kind of wonder how the Giants score enough points in this game. So my first lean here would be Tampa Bay laying the points. Tampa Bay hasn't played well lately. We know that. And Tampa Bay is a very good team. They're a well-coached team led by the best quarterback there is, obviously. I don't like laying 10.5 points, but can either of you talk me out of it here? Kiev, you go first.
I don't want to talk you out of it. I mean, I was just thinking about Tampa Bay is either the best team when they're playing or an average team. And the reason that is because they're number 1 in EPA on offense and they're number 14 in EPA on defense, right? If that offense isn't showing up, they're average, really average, and they'll beat maybe this team by 7 points, 6 points maybe. I have the Giants I think 25th or 26th in my power ratings, but from an efficiency algorithm, I have it 11. I ran all the metrics and I have 11 points here, and I think there's upside to Tampa because they're mad and coming off that nasty loss and 2 bad performances in a row. I didn't hear Gronk was playing. That's interesting because if I'm Gronk, I'm not playing until the playoffs, but maybe they're in such trouble now that they have to start getting a few wins. You've seen Tampa's lull mid-season last year when they lost to the Bears and, just look bad and they win the Super Bowl. This could be the get-up spot for them. This Giants team, I'm not quite buying Daniel Jones. And if this pass rush of this best defensive line in football finally shows up, Jones is dead. He's toast. And this could be like one of those Bears games blowouts of this year. They blew out the Bears, and I have to lean Tampa. I'm not going to talk you out of it. And I like it. I like the lean on Tampa more than the total. I'm just going to lay off that total. I think it's pretty good at 50.
Doug?
Well, I'm going to try and convince you both that that's the wrong side to be on. Okay. that's my story. All right. So Tampa Bay right now looks like an NBA team that's going to win a championship playing in February. They're bored. Okay, that's how they look. But as opposed to last year, if you remember, there was transition happening where they were trying to change the offense away from what Bruce Arians wanted to do. And Bruce Arians, by the way, and you've seen this year, if you look at their attempts, rushing attempts, when Tampa Bay runs the ball more, they're more successful. When Bruce Arians, now he's not calling the plays, but essentially, everything filters through him. When they get away from the run, then they have problems. And so that's what's happened the last 2 weeks. Now, sure, they've been behind, but they still only had a total of 27 rush attempts the last 2 weeks. The other thing that comes into play here with Tampa Bay is what's happened to their run defense. Yes, they have some injuries, but last year, they went on, they stoned everybody the last 2 months of the year, including the playoffs, against the run. Nobody could run on them. Nobody could run on them this year. Okay. The first 6 games, they gave up 54.8 yards per game. In their last 3 games, Tampa has given up 129.6 yards per game. Okay. So what's changed? Well, what's changed is in the first 6 games, opposing teams only ran against them 16 times a contest. That fear factor is now gone. Opposing teams in the last 3 games have run for 31 rushing attempts. Now, I'm not saying they're all successful, but teams are no longer fearing running the ball, which helps them on offense going against Tampa Bay. It's okay to get 3 yards against Tampa Bay's, or even 2 yards in some cases, if you just keep rushing the ball, keep their offense off the field. Now, I like you guys. I'm not sold on Daniel Jones, but he has improved. And part of the reason he's improved, and I think this is the kind of quarterback he's going to end up being, like a lot of them are, is that you have to have a running game in order to be successful. The Giants have run the ball better in their last 3 games. They could have beaten Kansas City easily, which would have put them on, I believe, a 3-game winning streak. So if he stays on schedule, he's pretty good. Now, Tampa Bay is 16-5 against the spread off a road favorite loss. Okay. But here's the one thing. In those 21 games, the average margin of victory is 9.1 points per game. The New York Giants come into this one 9-2 as a road underdog, and they're 8-1 against the number as a road team against conference opponents the last 2 years. I'm going the New York Football Giants plus the 10.5 in this one.
Man, Doug, now I have all this stuff running in my head. I don't know what I'm going to do about this one. Now,
Doug.
I wouldn't say that the Tampa Bay was just, like a favorite bet of mine or anything like that. It's just the way that I was leaning, and I may end up passing on this game in general. But those were convincing arguments, and you gave me something to think about, too, about that Chargers game. So I'm going to look into that one some more as well. Doug, I don't know. We're at the segment here where we usually give an underdog of 3.5 points.
Let me talk about Carolina real quick, Kyle.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about Carolina.
We had that question from Rob. So all I want to say is, like, a lot of people are assuming, that they're going to show up for Riverboat Ron. He's going to his last team that fired him. But I'm not buying that narrative as much as because the crowd still likes Ron. I think they like him there a lot, and he's going to get a standing ovation possibly. And I think that's going to put a kill to that whole idea. I know that Washington lost to him last year, but here's the thing: they're both in letdown spots because Washington beat Tampa, the Super Bowl champs, and Carolina beat Arizona. But Carolina knows Arizona didn't have their quarterback. And PJ Walker, they have a new kind of like rejuvenation right now. And Cam Newton, now I've always been against him, but he's good in the beginning, and he was good in the beginning for the Patriots. He won 3 games in a row last year. He's fired up for the time being. Now, I do want to fade them eventually with Cam, but I like Carolina at the 3. I think that's a good. If you can find a 3, it's between 3 and 3.5 in many places. So at 3.5, I don't. But I think they're worth a look at 3 because they're at home, and you also have CMC back, and that defensive pressure rate is fantastic at Carolina. That's one of the few good things they do. But you also have to remember Montez Sweat's out for Washington, and they lost their best player, Chase Young, to a torn ACL. That's bad. So that's
guys, I don't know about this one because I'm very torn. I kind of want to go against both of these teams based on the fact that they just had that win last week. Newton came into the game and gets them in the end zone from 1 or 2 yards away, something like that. I'm a bit, I think people should pump the brakes on, Cam Newton's back and he's just going to dominate with Carolina. I mean, he didn't really do that much yet. Let's give it a little bit of time. But Washington's injuries concern me quite a bit. So, Doug, do you have any quick opinion on that one?
Yeah, I actually I would pass on the game myself. I when I went through it, I quickly dismissed it. To be perfectly honest, it's
Yeah.
probably one of the quickest games I dismissed. And the point about Cam Newton, especially if he happens to start, Cam Newton was
He was announced as starter today.
he was announced as a
He was
starter.
announced today.
Okay, well then, if that's the case, then I might actually look towards Washington to be perfectly, if, at least as a just giving out a free pick, because Cam Newton, we have seen he is done as a starting NFL quarterback. As a specialized player inside the 10-yard line, okay, where he can run or pass, he has some value. But how do you get there with Cam Newton? How do you get inside the 10-yard line? That's my question.
It's a fair question. I think it's a very fair question. So I was anxious, Kiev, to get into this segment because I like it so much because it's our underdog of 3.5 points or more that could win outright. Doug, no pressure on you to give one if you don't have one ready. Actually, Washington might be his if you think it can be college football or an NFL one. But Kiev, I'm going to let you go first, but don't steal mine this time, okay?
Okay, it's UAB. No, I was kidding. We're looking here in the ACC, my friends, and I think that's all I had to say because you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
The team that's been overlooked by the committee, the team that might have the best offense, well, one of the best offenses, let's just say top 3, top 5 in college football, and that's the Wake Forest Demon Deacons here being a 4.5-point dog at Clemson. And I'll tell you right now, everyone keeps expecting Clemson to come back, but you have to remember they had a ton of injuries this year. And I know Wake Forest's defense hasn't been good, but I watched that game against NC State, and they talked about how their defense got together after that North Carolina game and really had to come to Jesus and worked very hard, and they shut down NC State last week, which I look at NC State, I thought they were going to win. I mean, I thought NC State was going to be the team representing. Right now, Wake Forest, coming into Clemson, and every single person is licking their fingers now, looking at how bad Clemson's offense is and how bad Clemson has been at moving the ball. You're looking at a great offense against a very good defense. I'm not going to say a great defense. I'm going to say very good. They're not as Venables' defense is not as good as it's been. And then you're looking at a bad offense against a pretty bad defense. And then you have 4.5 points here. 4.5 points is too much, in my opinion. Maybe 3, you won't get involved, but I like the fact that they have a shot at winning this game just because based on Clawson's offense. I love the way Clawson's coaching. I think he should probably get a great job or a big paycheck after this year. I'm going with Wake Forest plus 170.
Kiev, there were 2 of them I was looking at and kind of considering back and forth, and this was one of them. So I'll take the other one. I'm going to go with Louisiana against Liberty here this weekend. I think that's a game that could go either way. 50-50 game, and you're giving me plus 160 on the money line here with Louisiana. Napier's a really good coach. Obviously, so is Hugh Freeze. Yeah, I think this Louisiana team has been a bit inconsistent this year, but their upside is very high. I think they could win a game like this. And like I said, I'm trying to take a money grab on a plus 160, plus 165 in a game where I think it should be, plus 100. I like Kiev's as well, obviously, with Wake Forest. And Clawson is 46-34 against the spread as an underdog. So he's been a good moneymaker as an underdog. It makes sense to take them plus 4.5 and put some of it on the money line as well. Doug, do you have an underdog that might win outright?
This was the one question I didn't get answered from you guys, so I'm little caught off guard here. So I was scrolling through. I thought to myself,
we should have said something.
I like Louisiana, and then Kyle started talking, so that took that out. So I'm going to go.
Well, I bet them earlier this week, Kyle. So there you go.
I'm going to go a different direction. Am I 100% convinced they can win outright? No, but do I think they have a shot? I'm going to go with yes. Okay. And that is the Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers played, a fantastic game. Okay. Against the Rams. They were so physical and they just beat their butts for all 4 quarters. But as we've seen with San Francisco, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. So now they have to travel. I'm not a big person about the early start times anymore. I think it's less significant than it used to be in the NFL. But it's nonetheless, it still is an early start time. So that has a little bit of an advantage for Jacksonville. Jacksonville is improving. Okay. They are also honestly, a very physical football team, and they have a good running game. The passing game certainly is lacking. There's just not enough continuity, not enough players familiar with one another in this case. If San Francisco doesn't come to play, as we saw what Buffalo did, okay, I think Jacksonville is nicely positioned. I don't know what I don't know what the money line is on this one, but I would be, if I was going to, as Kiev, I've heard him say, to sprinkle a little money around, okay, I would be inclined to sprinkle a little money around on the Jacksonville Jaguars to get the job done this week.
Plus 250 on the money line here in this one. That's a pretty big price. And this is why we bring Doug on, because he's not going to come on here and give some tiny underdog that, is basically almost pick 'em. He's going to go big with Jacksonville here. And I do like that, because, I mean, you're taking a chance, obviously. And I don't think anybody would be shocked if San Francisco wins big, but at the same time, San Francisco has laid some eggs pretty badly this year. Shanahan, I think he might be a little bit overrated as a coach at this point. It's not to say that they couldn't play really well in a game like this, but they've been very inconsistent. If they come with their D or F effort like they have in some of these other games, Jacksonville certainly has a chance. So I like it. And I like the fact that we were all kind of thinking alike too. We're all thinking, oh, he just said that one, so I'll have to say something different.
One thing I'll say about that is San Francisco is in 3 really bad spots. They're in a short week. They're in a letdown spot after beating the Rams, and they're in a very far travel spot. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, a couple things here before we close up. Reminder, you can sign up at BetUS with the code BetterOdds for a 125% deposit bonus. And Doug, thank you for coming on with us today. We really appreciate it very much. Can you let our viewers know where to find your winning information?
Yes. Well, first of all, it was my honor and pleasure to be with both of you fine gentlemen today. We've been friends for a while, and through Kyle, that's how I met Kiev, and ends up Kiev and I are in the same city. So that was an interesting dynamic. So that's been good. And we've gone to a baseball game or two and done some other stuff. So yeah, so it was great to be with you guys. Lots of fun, had a good time. Hopefully people got the entertainment, and hopefully I can bring some winners for you. Where do I have my plays at? Doc Sports. Okay, real simple. DocSports.com. At 23-14 in the NFL on a nice run again this season. So got some big plays coming there, and have another best bet along with a 7-play card in college football. So all available at the Doug Upstone page at Doc Sports, and Upstone is just like it sounds.
Nice. And guys, I know Doug does some great videos for Doc Sports too, so you can check out his videos he does there. A lot of good winning information. And both Kiev and I would highly recommend Doug's work, definitely. Very solid handicapper, proven winner in the long term betting in all sports in general. I know Doug's great when it comes to football. So check out his information. Kiev, let us know about the odds breakers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we have some comments, PMATA, money line parlay. That's actually, we've hit, both of our underdogs have hit before, me and Kyle's in the past. And if Doug's does, that would be a sweet one right there too. But I echo everything Doug said. It's fantastic to know Doug. I love the fact that he's close to me. We can always go out and have a little bit of fun, watch some games and stuff like that. Doug's also great with the ponies. So if you're looking for something to do over the summer, Doug's got some great stuff for you. Check me out, the odds breakers. Always got free information and free plays too. Obviously, people that want to support us and help us grow become premiums, and we give you our premium plays. But we just are happy you're here listening and watching. That's what we really care about, because this is our passion. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in. You can check out my work at huntersportsfix.com. I'm 43-18 so far this year in college football, so it's been a tremendous season. You can check out my Saturday card. I've already got a couple plays up. We'll be adding 2 or 3 more here today during the day. Check that out, huntersportsfix.com. You can sign up for my free picks newsletter from there as well. I'm also on the BetUS College Football Show, so give that a watch for more of my college football thoughts. And again, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. It's been a lot of fun. Doug, thanks again for coming on. One of these times, guys, I think we might have to have like a meetup in Ohio, maybe go catch a Buckeyes game. Although I'm a little bit worried that the two of you guys might cheer against Ohio State or something. I don't know.
What do you think? Maybe like in January or something?
Right.
A good time?
I won't be there. Maybe early September. Okay.
Right. No, it's pretty awesome that you guys live so close together, and hopefully we can meet up one of these times and have a group chat or something like that. But
Heck yeah,
guys,
that'd be
thanks.
awesome.
It was a lot of fun, and appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hope we can get some winners for you this weekend, and we'll see you back again next week on the Better Odds Sports Betting Show.